Hello, everybody, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, along with my co-host on right of the screen. It is Ken Fang from Awful Announcing. Ken, good evening. Thanks for joining me once again on this Sunday night. How's the weather up there in your neck of the woods?
A little rainy. It's a little cold, but nothing we can't get by. It's New England, so always it's getting to be winter time. I know in Chicago in the Midwest, it was really bad weather this weekend. Raining in Iowa. I was watching the Iowa Oregon game yesterday. Snow flurries where your Bears were playing today. So a lot of inclement weather all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I'm in Michigan, we had a flurry pretty much all day. Nothing sticking or nothing accumulating, thankfully. Even the ones in the Midwest, like Chicago today during the game, there weren't any massive accumulations or nothing that kind of impacted the game itself overall. But wherever you are tonight, especially on the Midwest area, like I am, and also on the East Coast, folks, I hope you stay safe and make sure you get through this weather tonight because it could be pretty ugly or even overnight as well. All right, Ken. Since you have to leave at 8 o'clock, let's get to the top of the storyline today. NFL Week 10. Let's start with your team, the Cleveland Browns, coming off a bye, facing the New York Jets. A lot of changes on the Jets this week because of the trading deadline that was on Tuesday. The Jets basically sold off a lot of their top two players, Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, to the Colts and the Dallas Cowboys, respectively. With Sauce Gardner got 2 first-round picks and a 80 mid, which was shocking. Quinnen Williams got them Mozzie Smith, a bust of a player, and a second-round pick next year, and then a first-round pick the year after, which is probably one of them, which they got from Micah Parsons' trade, basically. And yet the team that was depleted and basically entered the official rebuilding phase ended up beating your Cleveland Browns today. So Ken, kind of give us a synopsis on this loss and how do you truly feel about the direction right now where the Browns currently sit after another an embarrassing loss today?
Disgraceful. It really was. First of all, special teams. They went ahead Browns went ahead 7-0, but then they allowed a kickoff return for 99 yards, and then after giving up the ball, they allowed a punt return. Yeah, so they were down. They were down 14-7. They were tied at the half at 17-17. Thanks to some really poor playing by Justin Fields. They were -4 yards passing. -4 yards passing for the entire half. Justin Fields, who you know very well from his Bears days, just looked totally lost out there. But for some reason, in the second half, the Browns let him off the hook, and the poor play by the Browns led to the Jets winning this game, as you see there, 27-20. It was not as close as the score indicated. The Browns really did not play very well. The offense, again, Dylan Gabriel made bad decisions out there. But unfortunately, I can't see Shedeur Sanders coming in and playing. I really don't. They don't have much of an alternative right now. They traded Joe Flacco away to Cincinnati, who could have probably come in and maybe stabilize some play. But right now, as I see it right now, I call this Super Bowl 2 because remember, Super Bowl 1 was against Miami. They did defeat the Miami Dolphins earlier this year. Interestingly enough, this week Miami came in and totally wrecked the Buffalo Bills at home. So, as we say, any given Sunday. But I'm just exasperated. This team is just going nowhere. It's basically stuck in the mud. It's basically spinning its wheels. Kevin Stefanski hasn't showed anything for me this season. I know I've defended him in the past, but I can't defend this effort. The fact that there just doesn't seem to be any caring by the team. Miles Garrett continues to do what he can, but I think he's thrown up his hands. So I don't know. This team is just not a very good team, and if you lose to the Jets, and I don't care if it's just their second straight win, you lose to the New York Jets. You just might as well just relegate this team to the mountains, to the Big Sky conference. That's where I feel about this team, Steven. They should not when you play like this, you should not be allowed to travel internationally. B, you should not be on national television, and C, all of their games should be played at 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, so small children can be protected from watching the bad football that was played this afternoon. I'm just not very happy with it, and we can move on. I have nothing else to say.
Yeah, losing to a depleted the New York Jets was not a good look for Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns. Earlier this week, the Browns lost an executive, and I don't think nobody really care or misses him. Paul DePodesta, formerly with the Major League Baseball. He was with Oakland during the Moneyball era, and then also the Dodgers when the Dodgers were pretty bad before they're on this current heater right now. He ended up leaving earlier this week to the Colorado Rockies. So you go from one loser organization, I apologize, Ken, to another loser organization in different sport. And certainly, I don't know how you view the DePodesta and the role that he had or didn't have, basically, because apparently he was reportedly working out of San Diego, not Cleveland or Berea or anybody else.
I mean, he was working more as a consultant.
Right.
He wasn't really involved in a lot of the front office decisions.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean, if you wanted to know, basically he was played by Jonah Hill in the movie in Moneyball, with Brad Pitt playing Billy Bean. Okay. Let's just put it this way. Paul DePodesta, he didn't do much with Cleveland. He was just there in the front office. He was just there by name. But he did, like I said, wasn't really involved in any of the draft picks, doesn't really involved in, any of the front office decisions. So, but he was at the game today. But why he was at the game in New Jersey, I have no idea. But, hey, maybe he wanted to say goodbye to everybody and maybe say, hey, good afternoon. I'm really Paul DePodesta. I was in your front office, and I don't think anybody knew. So, to be honest with you, I mean, congratulations that he can go and work his natural sport of baseball. May he have, I wish him nothing but the best of luck. But as far as the Browns are concerned, he really didn't do much with the Browns. And, I can't blame him, or I can't defend him either way, because really he didn't have much of a bearing on what happened in the front office.
So the biggest question now, as always, with the Cleveland Browns every single week now, is Dillon Gabriel as their starting quarterback. So I apologize. Maybe I need to change a little bit spelling. Yeah, Kevin Stefanski, at the end of the game presser, said that he is going to stick with Dillon Gabriel as a starter. Obviously, this is kind of like him trying to do some maybe damage control that to the ownership and the front office. Like, this is my last stand. I know I'm going to get fired either way. Tomorrow, tonight, either way, I'm going to go guns a-blazing, and I'm going to stick it to them and say Dillon Gabriel is my starter still moving forward. Do you get that impression, or do you feel like this is
I don't think he has a choice. Who does he have? I mean, unless he brings in Shedeur Sanders, who has basically not shown any hint that he's ready. So, I mean, like I said, they traded away Joe Flacco, who should have stayed there. But the trading deadline is finished, so they can't get a quarterback. So I don't know. I don't think he has much of a choice. I don't think he has anywhere who else to turn to. Dillon Gabriel, it's basically going to be him or bust. The the season's over with anyway. So you just might as well, let Dylan Gabriel learn from this. Unfortunately, he's throwing throwing a lot of interceptions. He hasn't been making good decisions out there, but he's a rookie. You got to stick with him, and unless you want to, the ownership says, Jimmy Haslam says, play Shadur Sanders next week. I think you have to stick with Dylan Gabriel at this point. I don't see anywhere else you can go.
It's an interesting decision that the Browns have. The 5 of their next 7 games are at home.
Yeah.
So November and December, a lot of the games will be at home, and there's going to be a lot of empty seats. I think that might be, pretty much an understatement. Just how empty it is, I don't know. Maybe they might decide to force hands and play Shadur at some point during the game.
It will happen. It will happen. I do agree that it's going to happen, but at least at this point, I don't think Shadur is ready. He hasn't. Yeah, I mean, he did look very good in the first preseason game, as I mentioned, but the defense has caught up with him. Dylan Gabriel is basically the guy you have to stick with for the next few weeks until I think Shadur Sanders will probably start in week 14 or week 15. I could be surprised, but I don't see where else you have to turn to at this point. I think right now we've hit the low of the low right now. Being defeated by the New York Jets is pretty much the lowest of the low. If the Miami Dolphins can call out, I mean, of course, the Browns had a surprise victory by defeating the Green Bay Packers, and they actually looked pretty good while doing it. Right. But
that feels like eons ago, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that was with Joe Flacco. So you got Flacco's not there anymore. So you have to play with what the hand that you're dealt. And right now, it's Dylan Gabriel or bust. And I don't know how long this is going to last. But like I said, I don't think you have much of a choice. You got to play him. I mean, who else are you going to play out there right now? And whether he's the future or not, I'm not sure. But right now, for the immediate future, you have to play him. You got no choice.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the my game, the Chicago Bears and the New York Giants. And I was actually looking forward to watching this game on my local Fox affiliate, but as soon as I saw the TV switch to Baltimore and Minnesota, I was floored, and I had to go back to 506sports.com. And it turned out all Michigan ended up switching to Baltimore and Minnesota for some reason.
JJ McCarthy, that's
why. Michigan guy. Yeah. But so I had to, find a way to watch the game from its entirety. I had to kind of find a way, watch the game from start to finish, thankfully. No buffering and no problems. And listen, it was once again, not as chaotic and crazy as last week's Bengals game, but still, this was another nail biter all the way down to the finish. It was crazy. The Bears scored a first touchdown, and then I thought, okay, we're going to blitz the Giants. And then somehow they got into a lull offensively and defensively. Jackson Dart looked like the second coming of Josh Allen all day, running, passing. I mean, the Giants didn't even have Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterboot, and the Bears defense just didn't have any answer pretty much the entire game. And they were being gashed. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't cover anybody throughout. It was actually, I had a real bad feeling. And then, when the game got to 20-10, after the Bears couldn't convert on fourth down and they had to end up giving the ball. By then, thankfully, shockingly, Jackson Dart was not in the game. It was Russell Wilson. It turns out Dart got probably a concussion or hurt badly. Yeah. On, I believe, one of the runs that he gained the first down, but he was careless with the ball, had the ball knocked out, and then landed awkwardly. Right. Bears recover, but they can only muster up a field goal on that turnover, and nothing was going right for them. And then Caleb Williams became like a Superman, just evading pass rush all day today. He only had one sack that came in probably the first drive or maybe second drive in the first quarter, but that's it. He was just basically spinning, just running around, trying to avoid sack. I mean, if it wasn't Caleb Williams, the Bears might have ended up, giving up 5 or 6 sacks easily.
Mm-hmm.
And the Giants' defensive line is amazing. Very strong with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, who leads the league in sacks, Abdul Carter, the 3rd overall pick, who's not having a very good season so far, even as a rookie, and Keydon Thibodeau, who ended up staying with the team, even with the long rumor during the trade deadline. So, when the game was at 20-10, I think that in that field goal, I think, Ken, you might remember, the Bears committed a false start or 5-yard penalty, and
Right.
the Giants ended up kicking a 30-some yard field goal. I'm sorry, no, it's not. It wasn't. It was a 3rd and goal, and the Giants ended up kicking, and then Giants, I think, in that kick, the Bears probably committed a false start or encroachment. So the Giants ended up still taking the field goal rather than putting the ball at the I believe it was at the 5 instead of a 5-yard line where they ended up stopped. They could have probably put themselves at the 1 or maybe near the 1-yard line and go for it on 4th down, because the weather was just horrible with the snow and the wind and everything. The Bears didn't even attempt a field goal today at all because of it. With Cairo Santos being so unreliable. That really gave the Bears life. Caleb Williams started to hit passes. He wasn't helped much because the Bears wide receivers dropped, like, I believe, 8 passes overall today. 2 of them in the end zone in the first quarter. That would have been a huge difference between what the final score was in the actual game itself. The run game, unfortunately, just wasn't clicking like last week. Of course, it's the Bengals defense. They're going to give up probably the worst yards, most points in NFL history in a historical manner. That's how bad they are. But the Giants defense, at least they have talent, and they played hard. The Bears scored 2 late touchdowns to seal the game. We jokingly said about this in the past, Ken, but I have a feeling that Brian Daboll right now and your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, are kind of like on equal terms as to who gets fired first right now. And Brian Daboll has blown 4 games where his team led 10 or more points, I believe, in the 4th quarter already this year. This is kind of like what I endured last year as a Chicago Bears fan with Matt Eberflus, because they couldn't close the game out in his tenure.
Right.
So, now Brian Daboll is a much better coach, I will tell you that. But certainly, this is kind of like the futility level that the Giants fans are not used to, and they are getting so fed up. And I think, unfortunately, this loss puts them at 2-8. Jackson Dart took a beating. I have a feeling that there's going to be some, WFAN guys, ESPN New York guys who are ready to tee off on not just Brian Daboll, but their general manager, Joe Shane, who is equally responsible as well.
Yeah, and not only that, Jackson Dart has got to learn to go down. I mean, I know he's a rookie and he wants to show what he can do out there, and he wants to be a tough guy. But as a quarterback, it's self-preservation, and you can't get hurt like that. And then when basically Russell Wilson came in for Jackson Dart, and after Caleb Williams scored that touchdown, you basically knew it was over, because Russell Wilson is a bad quarterback. He just can't play. He was getting sacked out there. He couldn't throw. And all the Bears had to do was tee off, and Russell Wilson just could. You just knew he wasn't going to. After Caleb Williams scored the go-ahead touchdown, you just knew that there was nothing Russell Wilson could do. I mean, aside from the fact of basically allowing. He just had nothing. He had nothing. So putting the game in his hands was just like basically saying, okay, I'm going to basically give up. I'm going to lie on the field for 2 minutes and allow you just to sit on me and then that's it. That's basically what the Giants were doing. So felt bad for them, but again, good win for for your Bears. Caleb Williams with a great run at the end to get the go ahead score. I don't think Brian Dable will be fired tonight or tomorrow. I think it may be. I think he will get fired. I just don't think at this point, who do you have? I don't know who the Giants would have to bring them in, and at the point right now, the Giants are in a state of flux because their ownership is I don't know. I just don't think he's going to get fired yet. I think he'll survive another week.
Well, they're 2-8 after tonight,
right?
And depending on how bad Jackson Dart's condition is, people are very much up in arms over there in New York because Jackson Dart gets a lot of hits because he runs the ball a lot on a quarterback keeper or design run a lot of times. And you take a vicious hits, unlike in college where you have to play 5 or 6 more games versus college. I'm very impressed with Jackson Dart, excuse me. That's one guy that I was very scared of because basically without Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterbo, their entire offense has to go through him. He's got a leg and an arm. And, the Bears were getting gashed. The pass rush after maybe like the first 2 drives where they pressured him and, sacked them on 4th down on their first opening drive, I believe, on turnover on downs. It was basically non-existent. He actually scored a touchdown with his leg.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Right. And, that was impressive. The Bears defense just couldn't tackle him or tackle anybody at all today. It was just so bad. Thankfully, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who is a very controversial player, came up with 2 huge sacks to turn around the ball game for Chicago. Their defense, at least they did come up with the stuff. And again, like you said, it was against Russell Wilson, even though in that on that final drive, Wilson actually ran to get the first down. But although I do believe that had more to do with the Bears being in a zone coverage more so than anything else to allow Wilson to get a first down. But that was pretty much it. The next 4 plays, 1st, 2nd, 3rd down, and 4th down, it was over basically. So, the Bears just keep on winning games that really causes a lot of heart attacks. It's not healthy, but, they're 6-3 now. They have more wins than last year. I think it's a massive progress. They will still make some stupid mistakes on both sides of the ball. Luckily, they didn't make too many of the mistakes on offense, penalties that usually shoots themselves in the foot that we're commonly known for. But that was not much of the case today. I think it had to do more with the defense, which was poorly constructed under defensive coordinator Ryan Poles. I do believe, though, that, for the rest of the season, Ken, at least as a Bears fan, I am going to have to get used to these types of games, win or lose. And then Dennis Allen, unfortunately, I'm kind of a little bit wavered after today because of such a poor defensive performance. Obviously, there's not many, healthy bodies available for him. And, he's going to have to find ways to, scheme out of trouble the rest of the season. Now, will it always be successful? It depends on who's available, who the opponent is. But, yeah, they're games like this, I'm going to have to probably get used to it, win or lose the rest of the season. So looking at the rest of the league today, Buffalo, boy, I was really shocked at how they looked bad. I can't explain it. Just how stunningly bad they were from start to finish against the Bills. Bills just can't, push themselves upwards. And then New England went to Tampa and beat them 28-23. So the gap between the Bills and the Patriots are starting to increase, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately here in New England, that means New England Patriots fans are going to become insufferable. Not quite on the level when they were winning Super Bowls, but they're very arrogant, Stephen. I hate to say this. They're very arrogant. They talk down to you when they're winning. This is where it's going to be. Especially, I think and Buffalo's got to go into their place. And right now, with the way that Drake May's problem is that he holds the ball too long, and I think he knows that. But
same with my Caleb Williams too.
Yeah, so. And he's holding the ball way too long. He got hit a few times today. And a couple of because he's a second-year starter, Stephen, he's like Cam Newton. He's not getting the calls of getting hit late. He's looking for them, and the referees aren't giving it to him. But at this point, he's got to understand. He's got to make the plays, and he is making plays, and he's doing a fantastic job out there. But again, holding the ball a little bit too long. I think that's his one drawback right now. But right now, Mike Vrabel is doing a fantastic job. I hate to say it, but they're doing a fantastic job with the Patriots, and they with a big win over Tampa Bay. Right now, Stephen, I would have to expect that you would have to see the New England Patriots starting to get flexed into prime time into Sunday Night Football over the next part of the second half of the season. So I would definitely see that. The next thing, though, Stephen, I cannot explain how the Jacksonville Jaguars blew the game. They were up huge, and they allowed the Houston Texans to score 26 points unanswered in the fourth quarter, and they lost the game. Again, the Jacksonville Jaguars, we talked about this before. They're a paper tiger. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think I just can't. I'm not convinced that he's an elite quarterback, Stephen. And the Jags just played some really bad defense in the fourth quarter. And I got to give my hat off. I mean, the Texans saved their season. The Texans, had they lost, would have just basically had to play out the string. But now, with a win, when you come back to win and score 26 points, that puts a lot of confidence in your team right now. And D'Amico Ryans, who's their coach, hats off to them. Hats off to Houston. It was an emotional win. You can see how at the end how emotional he was when they pulled off the win. So kudos to Houston. Are they going to win the division? No. Are they going to get to the playoffs? Probably not. But this is a team that right now will not quit, and that's the main thing. They beat and the Jacksonville. I don't understand how they blew that. I really don't. And inexplicably. And right now, to me, I don't think Jacksonville deserves any kudos right now, especially with that team. Especially the coach was just extremely angry. He threw the headset on the ground after they. But basically, what happened is that on the very last play, Trevor Lawrence basically got hit, and then they ran the ball back. It was called an interception. It was a fumble, interception, whatever you want to call it. Ran back for a touchdown to seal the game for Houston. But Jacksonville, just a very bad loss. Very bad loss, Stephen.
Mm-hmm. And then looking over here, involving NFC West division games, the Seahawks blew out the Cardinals as expected. It was like 28-0 at the end of halftime, and then the Rams, revenged their early season loss in Los Angeles against the 49ers. The Rams stick it to the 49ers, 42-26 right now. I think it's the two race between Seahawks and the Rams for the division right now.
Yep.
Seahawks looks absolutely amazing. You saw the game on Sunday night like I did. I get it. The Washington Commanders are not the same team. They look old. They're battered. Jaden Daniels suffered a serious injury. Thankfully, it's not season ending. But the way they put it out there against Washington, and then at home against the Cardinals, coming off a huge win over the Dallas Cowboys on a Monday Night Football, and then just literally blasted them with Jacoby Brissett as their new starting quarterback is quite impressive. They already have a great defense. Mike McDonald, former DC at Baltimore, he can coach defense. The offense is really, really clicking, surprisingly, with Sam Darnold. They added a Saints receiver, Rashid Shaheed, who's a big speed guy, should help, take some defense off the top, give Jackson Smith and Jigba some breathing room underneath, so that at least Shahid can take the top off and be a huge deep threat for them. As far as the Rams what can I say? Listen, Sean McVay, to me at least, in my opinion, he is a top 2 coach. In my opinion,
Right.
What he does with the Rams is simply amazing. The defense is very stout with Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk from the same draft class a year ago. Matthew Stafford is just playing great. The addition of Devontae Adams was a very shrewd move as well. To go along with Puka Nakata, who scored another touchdown today. I got to say right now, I know it might be premature. Whoever wins the NFC West could be the guy, the team that has a strong chance of dethroning the Eagles from the NFC right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Rams feel that they should have won 2 games against the Eagles. First, the NFC Championship game back in January, and then that game earlier this season, in which they had 2 field goals blocked and walk-off win. They never first of all, that special team should never allow that. But I think the Rams feel if they face the Eagles again, I think the Rams can feel that they can beat the Eagles. I really do. I think they have a lot of confidence in that. And especially Matthew Stafford. By the way, interestingly enough, Steven, he has never been considered for an MVP or even made the All-Pro team. Right now, over the last 5 weeks, he's not thrown an interception. This is a guy who used to throw picks all the time. He would
Detroit.
If there was a way that he would throw an interception, he would find a way to do it, especially in Detroit. Also in LA too, in the first part. But Sean McVay has cleaned that up, and he's always done well with quarterbacks. He's a guy that does very well, and that's a reason why he traded for Matthew Stafford and decided to let go of Jared Goff. So Stafford is playing an MVP-like season right now, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I don't want to say he's going to win it right now, but I'm going to say he has to be considered in contention. That's how well he's playing right now. And, he got his 400th career passing touchdown today. And right now, the Rams look really good, and they have to be considered, as you said, a favorite for the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. One of the favorites, I have to say, along with the Eagles. So I would not. I have to agree with you on that. The way the Rams look today, as much as it pains me to say it, because Sean McVay is a thorn in my side. But you know what? You got to give your hat off to him. He's a very good coach.
Both are 6-2, and probably going to be dogfight till the very end for that NFC West crown.
Right.
Pretty much the end of the season, and then the game that just went final a few minutes ago, perhaps. Lions blasted Commanders 44-22, double score again. The Commanders are just basically has kind of fallen off, unfortunately. Massive expectations this year to start the season. Jaden Daniels just cannot stay healthy, unfortunately, with all the hits that he takes, as a quarterback, with a keeper and all the stuff that they do. Marcus Mariota is just basically try to keep the team upright, but by the time Jaden Daniel comes back, I just have a feeling that this team is pretty much over. We saw Daron Payne get ejected for punching Amon-Ra St. Brown. Washington, stupid. Yeah, so Washington is literally imploding, right in front of your eyes. The season, unfortunately, is pretty much over at this point. I think, shockingly, people are talking about Dan Quinn's job security already.
Right.
So it's an ugly situation in Washington, which I don't think it's going to end well pretty much this year.
And I have to say that Detroit, big win for them. It's a big bounce back, especially against last week when they lost a bad game to Minnesota last week, and J.J. McCarthy, who, of course, Michigan guy, defeating his town team, the Detroit Lions last week in Minnesota. But big bounce back win for Detroit. They came in and they didn't take their foot off the gas against Washington, 44-24. Interestingly enough, 2 games in the 4 o'clock hour were both 44-22. It was Washington and Detroit over Washington, and then it was Seattle over Arizona, both finishing 44-22. It was a 42-26 game for the Rams over the 49ers. Really bad late window. It did not a good lead in for Sunday night game tonight, which is the Steelers and the Chargers. But I have to say, Stephen, and also we should mention that earlier today in Berlin, in Germany, where you used to live, the Indianapolis Colts in overtime defeated the Atlanta Falcons. Jonathan Taylor looked really, really good. Daniel Jones for a while looked really bad out there. Atlanta looked like they were going to win this game. They were up 25-22, but the Colts managed to get a tying field goal before the end of regulation. And then after Atlanta had one possession and gave up the ball, Jonathan Taylor was the workhorse. They just gave him the ball, let him run. Atlanta couldn't stop him. And kind of like again in overtime when and I don't want to say you compare it to Super Bowl 52 when they allowed James Smith to run all over them from the Patriots. Anyway, Jonathan Taylor ran all the way in and ran for a score, and a big win for Indianapolis because they looked like it looked like they were not going to win that game at one point. But an exciting game in Germany, and congratulations to Indianapolis. They come back. I think they're going to be 8-2, and right now they're leading in the AFC along with the New England Patriots. And whoever thought that was going to be happening? Patriots and Colts again on top of the AFC, Stephen.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the different subject here. The plight of ESPN, I think, is probably an aptly title given all the problems that ESPN is dealing with. So we know the battle between ESPN and YouTube TV that hasn't been resolved. Now entering, I believe, the third week. Is it
the second weekend? This will be the second Monday Night Football game that we, as YouTube subscribers, are going to miss. They thought they were hoping that they would get back in time last week with the Dallas Cowboys, but it didn't come through. So now YouTube TV is offering a $20 credit to subscribers now. But instead of us, they just say, "Oh, we're just going to give you everybody across the board." They're going to provide a link to YouTube TV subscribers to get that credit. Now, not everybody's going to do that because not everyone's going to check their email and look for an email from Google or YouTube TV. So it's up to subscribers to get that credit back. And luckily, I got that email today, but still, not a good look. Not a good look for YouTube TV. But more people are blaming Disney and ESPN over this because they're asking for more money from Google. I mean, these are two multi-billion-dollar companies. They just can't get together. It's all about how much Disney is trying to get out of Google. It's how much Google trying to get out of Disney. It's all over that ESPN app and how much sports that YouTube TV can bring onto the streaming service. But Disney doesn't want to do that. They want everybody to go to the app. So we'll see where this goes. Everyone right now has bets on which is going to last longer: the government shutdown or the YouTube TV Disney dispute. Right now, as it stands now, it may be the Disney ESPN Google YouTube TV dispute. So we'll see what happens there. But right now, not a good look for either company. But right now, more people, including myself, are blaming Disney for this rather than Google.
Which, of course, Disney owns ESPN, Hulu TV, and Fubo TV, and all of it. So, certainly not a good look on either one of this. So, the other thing that I also wanted to touch about on the plight of the ESPN, of course, is Mina Kimes, who gets a lot of crap, of course, being a woman, first and foremost. And then talking about America's number one sports, football. She and the host of ESPN personalities this week were kind of accused of promoting, quote, a controversial solitaire game, which involves, I think Stephen A. was the one that was he an investor or was he
Well,
involved?
well, he's endorsing it, and don't forget he was seen playing solitaire during an
Oh
NBA
yes, yes,
playoff game.
yes.
And I guess he's decided to parlay that, saying that this is the game he was playing, but it's kind of a faulty app. So I don't know the whole story behind it, Stephen. I didn't write the story, but Awful Announcing did cover it. And as you can see, a lot of personalities fell into disfavor for endorsing it. And Mina Kimes admitted yesterday on both X and on Blue Sky that she failed to vet the app, and she apologized for it, and then said she will no longer endorse it. I think she did it because Disney executives said, "Hey, it's Stephen A. He's our top personality. Whatever he does, just endorse it." So, and again, it wasn't a very good move. I don't know what the app asked for, or if it's a lot of money, or how much it charges. But apparently, Mina said that it was not she realized it wasn't a great app and it wasn't good for consumers. So she said that she will no longer endorse the app, which is smart on her move. But again, unfortunate that she had to get caught up in that mess.
Yeah, at least I give her credit for taking the high road. I guess
Responsibility. Yeah, she said.
responsibility.
Yeah, and she said she owned what she owned it, and as you said, takes accountability there, Stephen. So yeah, I think a good move on her part, but you got to be careful in what you endorse. We're seeing this with athletes,
Yeah.
especially the Los
This
Angeles.
was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with the Coinbase or like a how do you say it? The Bitcoin
Right.
controversy involving Shohei Ohtani, Steph Curry, Shaq, among others. So I apologize for interrupting.
Right, that's okay, and yeah, you just have to be careful what you endorse. You got to vet it, and Mina said that she did not, and but she said she apologized for that and trying to mislead because she knows she has a platform and she has people who follow her and she does have fans. Um, so I think that's a good move. I wish other ESPN personalities would do the same. I haven't heard from anybody else, but good on her for saying, "Hey, look, it's my fault. I own it." And we'll see what happens. Especially if we hear more news about this app. If it's like heard that it's like duping people or it's a Ponzi scheme, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. But ESPN feels that Stephen A. is he's their he's their golden child for some reason. I'm not a big fan of his, but I'm not the target audience for him, Steven. I'm a little bit older than the target audience. So
Right. And demographically and racially, I don't think
yeah,
he gives
I
a
mean,
damn about us anyway.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But you know what? I don't know why ESPN executives feel that they have to cater to him. Um, you know, we'll see what happens on this one. But if we find out this app is like one of those apps is like I said, duping people, forcing people money to pay, or anything like that, it's not a good look. But also we should mention too, also this past week, ESPN ended its relationship with Penn Entertainment, with the ESPN Bet platform, and now is signed with DraftKings. They're also getting some criticism from Mark Shapiro, who used to be with ESPN, is now one of the leaders of the TKO group, which owns UFC and WWE. He criticized their relationship and the amount of betting content that is on ESPN. He says he hope it comes to an end, but with this is like the third partnership that ESPN has had with gambling ever since sports gambling was legalized in the United States by the Supreme Court. They had this ESPN Bet. They also had another platform as well. And now this is DraftKings, which will be coming on next month. So we'll see what happens with this. But again, a lot of people are criticizing about the amount of gambling content that has been shoehorned into their shows, whether it's like first, excuse me, First Take, or whether it's like their Sunday NFL Countdown.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people in there as well. So you see gambling experts. So we'll see where this goes. ESPN and DraftKings. I forget how long the agreement is, but ESPN has to be careful because they are the biggest sports network in the land. They have that brand name. But again, trying to shoehorn gambling into journalism is not a good thing.
No, I totally agree with you. Uh, the plight just continues off the with these types of off the field stuff. It's simply becoming really really embarrassing. I give Mina Kimes credit first of all for taking accountability, which is severely lacking in our society these days, in business, entertainment, anywhere you look at. Unfortunately, I do hope that others will follow suit. Okay, especially ironically, Mina's colleague over at the NFL Countdown, Laura Rutledge, who was also caught endorsing the app. So I don't know why she hasn't said it yet. I don't know if Mina said it. I don't know. I don't want to think that Mina took the floor for everybody else because it would seem unfair anyway. But I do hope that people will finally come to realization that accountability is severely lacking in ESPN when it comes, whether it's the Solitaire app, the ESPN Bet, and then the YouTube TV fiasco, in which they're giving $20 discount for, which is only a one-time thing anyway.
Right.
So I think they are really, really alienating many of the the viewers, the old viewers like you and I, who spent time watching Around the Horn and pardon the interruptions. Those who grew up watching Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott, or even Keith Olbermann, Dan Patrick, back in the day. It's the younger generation of the viewers probably don't really care much about ESPN other than when the game is on. And even when the game is on, it's all about a bunch of hot takes and nonsense. You look at the NBA broadcast done by NBC and Amazon, they're really focused on the X's and O's. And it's wonderful. And it's unfortunate that because the ESPN set the bar so low, the other services and other channels are like, well, you know what, we're going to differentiate ourselves from ESPN. And it's something that ESPN used to do a long time ago, before the Stephen A Pat McAfee's and the hot take artists started to take over, and then the gambling aspect of all of this, it's just becoming unrecognizable. And probably if this path continues at this rate, no one would give a damn about ESPN. And even if the ESPN crumbles and has to be put down or whatnot, I don't think not many people will shed a tear on where the current ESPN is and where it is actually heading. And I think a lot of people will be cheering on and think that ESPN can go away itself. So we'll see what happens. Right now the ESPN, ABC and Disney, they're not in a good place right now. And if they misplay this, Ken, maybe it's just me, I don't think ESPN doesn't really have much of a chance of staying in the good grace of many fans moving forward.
Yeah, we have to wait and see on what's going on there. But again, for ESPN to put its hat on people like Stephen A. Smith and hot take artists, they're saying we want to go where the audience is, but is it where the audience is? I don't know. We'll have to wait. We'll have to see. But what's trending now isn't going to be trending tomorrow. So maybe they'll fall out of love with Stephen. They did once before. They fell out of love with Stephen A. and they didn't bring him. They ended his contract, but then they brought him back, and now he's basically programming first take onto whoever he likes. We all saw that he didn't like Max Kellerman, so he jettisoned him. He wanted to have Shannon Sharp, but Shannon got into a personal situation, so he's gone. So it's like the flavor of the month with Steven. So but that's also dangerous to do, because if you program your own show, it's like running the team. Like who is it? The inmates running the asylum. So we'll see where that goes.
All right. So we got about 5 minutes left, and we're going to try and end the show with a big shocking news that broke during the NFL game today. Let's see. Not this one. Sorry about that. We talked about this a while ago when the story broke. Cleveland Guardians pitcher Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz were both under investigation for, sports gambling and money laundering conspiracy. Well, now Pablo Torre broke on his X. The Department of Justice has charged the both pitchers in sports betting and money laundering conspiracy. It was quite shocking, but I do believe that Clase was arrested today.
Yeah, he was.
In Boston, in your neck of the woods. And, we talk about, baseball having issues with, the potential strike in 2027. Bryce Harper, and Rob Manfred confrontation led to somebody from the MLB threatening Bryce Harper, about that whole situation. It's an interesting offseason, but certainly shortly after the World Series that gave us an incredible postseason, not just World Series, of course. This news came into light, Ken, and I have a feeling that it's not just limited, of course, to Latin players, but there could be more players involved in this down the road. It's a sad tragic downfall for Emmanuel Clase, who's a terrific closer, and then yet he threw the game away for 2 years over for what $15,000. It's unfortunate, but I just have a feeling that this is the tip of the iceberg for MLB, and if MLB is going to charge these players, there could be a lot more in other sports. It's a sad ordeal.
Well, we all know what happened. Of course, we heard what happened, of course, with the FBI and what's going on with the NBA, with that gambling situation there, and also the fixed poker games. Now we have this, and when the feds come after you, Steven, they have something, and we've seen it before. We've seen it happen with other athletes, whether they're Olympic athletes, whether they're baseball. If they come after you, unless it's something that's really, really blatantly bad, they will come after you, and they must have something. So this is something that's a story we have to keep a close eye on. Jeff Passan had the story also in his ESPN Baseball Insider. Jeff Passan had some tweets on it earlier today as well. So I have a feeling that we haven't heard the last of this.
No, like I said, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's unfortunate. A lot of these Latin players, they sign to a big contract at a very relatively young age, at like 16, 17, and 18 years old, and only a handful of them make it to the major leagues, unfortunately. For guys like Clase, who's talented and who's got still bright future ahead of him, even at 25 and 26, now his career is basically over. And more than likely, both of them are banned for life in a different reason than, of course, Pete Rose, of course. This is a downside to the legalized gambling, unfortunately. The players are, getting death threats regularly, of course. Graham Gano, the kicker of the Giants, revealed, Friday that, he's getting death threats whether he makes a kick or whether he misses a kick. He gets a death threats, and it's it has a massive impact, which impacts the players and their family members, of course. But if you're looking at a guy like Clase and Ortiz, just basically throwing these games over a few $100,000 or even less than that is just not really worth it. So it's a tragic case. And, I just feel that this is going to be something that we're going to start seeing a lot more, unfortunately, Ken.
Right. Exactly. Well, we're getting close to the end of my time here, but tonight. But let me just mention this. I wanted to mention the passing of Lenny Wilkens, the former Seattle Supersonics coach, also college basketball legend, Providence College, played for Joe Mulaney. He was a big player in putting college basketball on the map in the Northeast when he played at Providence College. Great player, coached the Seattle Supersonics to a championship in 1978. A guy who was a big lobbyist for basketball in the Northwest, still lives in Seattle up until his passing. And I'm very happy that he got to see that there was a statue put in his honor in Seattle earlier this year. So wanted to mention the passing of Lenny Wilkens. We also did mention the passing of former NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue, whose legacy is very large. I think it still shadows over Commissioner Roger Goodell, but Tagliabue, he helped to bring in Fox for the NFL in 1994. He liked to change networks, and I'm writing this on my Substack, so you'll see that coming up later tonight. But he also liked to do a lot of upheaval for networks in each of the three media contracts that he wrote. But I had to oversee the fact that the Cleveland Browns moved, the original Cleveland Browns moving to Baltimore in 1994. He also saw the Houston Oilers move to the Tennessee Titans. He did make them whole again. He did bring a franchise back to Cleveland in 1999 and also a franchise to Houston in 2000, and also bringing Carolina and Jacksonville to the league. And also NFL Sunday Ticket was brought in, was created under his watch. Also brought in the NFL Network. So I wanted to mention those two passings. Paul Tagliabue and Lenny Wilkens both passing away this weekend. Both big legends in sports, and both big people who leave a big legacy on their sports.
Well, thank you very much for 114 people who joined us tonight on our live stream. We'll look forward to doing this again next Sunday night, probably just after 7 o'clock, to talk about Week 11 of the NFL, more college football news, perhaps the start of the the MLB free agency. Will anybody sign? There's so much to talk about. A couple of things, future show information. Jake Assman from ESPN New York, who's a big Jets YouTuber also. We're trying to bring him on, maybe not this upcoming week, but the week after, sometimes during the weekdays from 11 till 3 Eastern, something along that. I'm also trying to work out an appearance with Lon Phillips Sullivan of LSU Odyssey. He can give us more insight into the failed Brian Kelly tenure, and then the controversial coach search involving their governor and the mess inside LSU. Hopefully that will happen before the end of the season, and I'm going to try and catch up on all the LSU stuff and just have something to talk about. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time on the Double A Team podcast live stream. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us.